Right, we're going to go through the questions that were on quiz 11. Even though this was a fairly short quiz, short chapter, this quiz has some interesting questions. And the first one is certainly one of the most interesting. Temporal resolution in M motion and A amplitude modes is equal to pulse repetition period, and the answer is true, and we're probably going to need a couple of pictures to explain why. So first of all, in M mode ultrasound, when we're looking at the M mode, which is on the bottom of this, we are looking at a single scan line that is repeated in the same position moment after moment throughout time. And so in this image here, we're seeing that it's 10 centimeters deep, and the temporal resolution is the time that it takes to make one scan line. Okay, in this case, in the M mode, it's the time it takes to make one scan line, and that just keeps getting repeated, that one scan line, over and over and over. And as things such as the structure of the heart are moving, we see those changes in time on a frozen image. So it takes the PRP, pulse repetition period, amount of time to make that one scan line. So therefore the resolution in time that we're seeing is the PRP. So now let's take a look at an amplitude mode image and see what it tells us. So this is an amplitude mode image, and it is showing us the amplitude with respect to time or depth. And so the amount of time, or the temporal resolution, to obtain this single scan line is exactly the PRP, because it is one scan line. And so this is a pulse sent in. It receives echoes until this point, and then another pulse would be sent in, and we would get more echoes. So both the A mode and the M mode are demonstrating temporal resolution of one scan line at a time, and that is their temporal resolution. Since the temporal resolution is also equal to the time it takes to make one scan line, then it is equal to the pulse repetition period. So that means this question is true. When we look at a B mode image, it's the pulse repetition period times the number of pulses per frame that is the temporal resolution. So the next question is, the M mode is a presentation of echo depth versus time. That's absolutely true. We'll look at another M mode and just walk through it real quick. So here is a typical M mode ultrasound, this one of the heart, and we see that the x-axis is time as it passes by, and the y-axis here is depth. And so this area that we see at the top of the screen, which represents the near field, and the area at the bottom of the screen is the far field, along this scan line is shown in the picture as depth, and that's versus time. So that's absolutely true. It's depth versus time. Brightness mode is our typical scanning mode, and it is also known as grayscale. With A mode, what is displayed on the y-axis, and so remember the x-axis is the time or depth, the y-axis is the amplitude. That's where we get its name. A mode is amplitude mode. Which mode is used in real-time grayscale anatomic imaging? B mode, also known as grayscale. So those two questions go together. In M mode, which axis is related to the strength of the reflection? And so the correct answer, which is not marked on here, The strength of the reflection would be the brightness, and so I need to go in and correct that one. Somehow it got marked as time. That's not correct. The axis which is related to the strength of the reflection is the brightness of the pixels. It's also known as the z-axis. Okay, I have corrected that question in the answer bank, and you may see your score increase. I did not reduce any scores on that question. With B mode, which axis is related to the strength of the reflection? This is the z-axis. Again, this is the brightness axis. Next question, what is the only display mode that provides information regarding reflector motion with respect to time? And so static time imaging is always M mode, and so that's good to see so many got it correct. With M mode, what is displayed on the y-axis? Remember, that was the depth. We had that question earlier. And then our last question here, with A mode, what is displayed on the x-axis? And the x-axis is both time and depth of the reflector. Remember, in ultrasound, depth is measured using time delays. Depth is time.